You are a guest with us on the call this evening. It is fantastic to have you with us. I know you're going to love this call. And tonight you're going to leave, and I know for sure you're going to leave this call with information that's going to empower you and your family to magnificent health. That's what we're going to give you tonight. So you are in the right place. And I want to thank the distributors who invited guests to join us tonight. That just really shows us that you care for others. And as a company, what is our aim? Our mission is to make this world a healthier and a happier place. We want to end this trend of poor health that too many people in this wonderful country and continent and region are experiencing. And just for the benefit of the new people, NeoLife is a company that has been in business for, 62 years now. We are world leaders in whole food nutrition. And we have a goal. Our first goal is we want to help families improve their health. And if we have a look at what's going on in the world today, there's a couple of key trends that are happening, but I'm just going to focus on one right now. And that is the health and wellness trend. We have more science, we have more technology, we have more pharmaceutical medication today than ever before. So the question I want to ask you is, why are people still so sick? And we all know people that have experienced chronic disease, the cancers, the diabetes, the heart disease, all these chronic diseases. And the funny thing, or not so funny thing about these chronic diseases is they are called what we call non-communicable diseases, which means they are not contagious. We're not passing them around like the common cold or flu, we are developing them. And I want you to get excited about that, because if we are developing these challenges, we can play some sort of role in preventing these challenges. And I want you to know this, your body is the miracle. Your body is amazing. In fact, your body is designed to live with health, with vitality, with energy. You're designed to be healthy. And when you're healthy and when you have energy, everything in life is just so much better. But for you to have your health and long-term vitality and energy, you need to take responsibility and feed your body with the foods and the nutrients and the nutrition so that your body can do what it's designed to do. And the challenge we have is we've strayed away from that in the modern day world. Our eating patterns, our modern day food processing, we are no longer getting the nutrients that we need to achieve optimal health. That is where NeoLife comes in. And so whether you're looking to improve your health, you're in the right space. If you're already healthy, that is fantastic. You need to listen just as hard because you want to maintain that health, or you want to even get healthier and increase your energy level. So tonight we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to share some great information, and I am going to introduce our guest speaker. For those of you who don't know her name is Liz Geerdts. She is a nutritionist. She is a nutrition authority when it comes to the subject of nutrition. She has a heart for people, and she jumps onto these calls and gives us her time because she truly wants to make this world a healthier and a happier place. So Liz, great to have you with us. Good evening to you.
Hi, Drew. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
How are you? I'm just going to make your video bigger. Hey, how are you, Liz?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. I was also in Cape Town with Drew this weekend, so nice to have to chat to some of the people.
Was magnificent catching up with all the Cape Town distributors who are all looking good, healthy, strong. Really wonderful to see you. And Liz, so welcome to the call tonight.
Thank you.
I know you got a very interesting topic, and so yeah, take it away.
Right, so let's just share the screen. Okay, okay, so I think we're on. Right, well, yeah, so we are in November, which is absolutely amazing. And before the year ends, let's talk about what's exciting in the nutrition world and what happens every November. So on the 14th of November, every year, there's World Diabetes Day. So I thought we should sort of hone in on the things that are topical so that we can share them with others and have reference points, not just NeoLife ones, but general information that we have out there about things like diabetes. And then it's also 19th of November was International Men's Day. And so along the course of the year, we've had different events where it's been men's health, in different months of the year. But I thought we would just wrap up with this because it's very important. I think as I've also read up a bit more about men's health and realized actually that while women's health is very important, we actually don't focus a lot on men's health. And I think that's one of the reasons possibly why we have some challenges with men's health and why men aren't perhaps getting ahead, because a lot of focus has been given to women's health. So we're trying to balance the scale here, basically. So let's launch off a little bit here into November and into diabetes. And something that some of the distributors will be familiar with is what we've talked about over the course of this year is the incidence of diabetes and how it's projected to increase by region. And you've got just some numbers there for the different places in the world, but just because we're in Africa is not the reason why I'm highlighting it. If you look at Africa, you'll see that we are actually faring dramatically worse than everybody else. 143% increase projected over the next 20 odd years, which is, I mean, it's dramatic. And as Drew was saying, we've got all this research, all this science, all this medical knowledge and technology, and we seem to be losing this battle, along with many other of the lifestyle diseases, but this one in particular is taking hold. So it's actually very appropriate that we should be talking about it a bit. One of the, I mean, there are many factors that play a role, but I talk about weight gain because pretty much it's the common denominator in virtually all our lifestyle conditions, all these non-communicable conditions that Drew was mentioning and some of which I've listed here. We'll talk a little bit more about diabetes type 2 in terms of what we can do, but you'll see others that are familiar to you, some cancers, we'll reference that tonight. Mood, for example, the fact that we can't sleep well, cardiovascular disease, all intertwined with what I say is this common denominator. So it's not something we want to necessarily hear because it's quite a challenge for many people to have their weight under control, but it's certainly something we have to do because it's playing a huge part in the incidence of our diseases, and that sort of number that I showed you, 143% increase. Yeah, so this is the reality today that, and this is from the International Diabetic Federation. So it's independent information, and looking at the Africa region, these are the sort of numbers. As I say, this was just last year's statistics. So in 25 years or so, the numbers are going up dramatically. And you'll see that there's a pre-diabetes reference, which means that this is something we can turn around. We're talking more specifically about type 2 diabetes, the one that that creeps up on us sometimes and isn't really even happening in our later years. It's starting to happen to people much younger in life now. So our youth doesn't really stand on our side. People are getting sugar problems much, much younger in life. And very often we're pre-diabetic where we can still do something about it as long as we are aware of the fact that they are fluctuating, but that is commonly the problem. We only find out when we actually get some particular symptom or we go for a particular test and it pops up as a problem. So that's why there are 60% of adults with diabetes are unaware that they have it, which might sound a bit crazy because you think, well, this is a disease, how come we don't know? But this is what's so amazing about our body, is that it is so accommodating and it really attempts to make things work and fit and happen for us. But there becomes a point where symptoms start to show, if you like, cracks start to show. And if, in this case, our pancreas might just pretty much get exhausted and it just can't do any more accommodating. And so that's when it manifests. And so often people say, Gina, it just happened. But in actual fact, diabetes can be living with us for 5, even 10 years actually before, as I say, that final sort of push comes and we actually discover that it's not able to be controlled or accommodated anymore. So you can appreciate that if you've had something that's been, scratching and knocking and affecting something and having a sort of a knock-on effect around the body for 5 or 10 years, there's a fair amount of damage that's already been done to our blood vessels, which affect our eyes very often. And some of those are the conditions that we actually go and check out and discover this was actually the cause. So it's quite reasonable actually to realize that people can walk around without knowing that this is a condition. So that's why this incidence is actually mushrooming to such an extent. So to try and prevent the progression, which in fact we can do, particularly the type 2 diabetes, that's the one, as I say, that's not the one that is totally dependent on insulin, which the type 1 tends to happen when we're younger, little ones or children even, where the pancreas is not able to be accommodating because it doesn't make any insulin. So it's almost an autoimmune disease. Whereas type 2 diabetes, which is the one that we're actually going to encounter most frequently, and is the one that's mostly referenced when we talk about those statistics, because it develops and it's linked to weight. Yes, it's linked to our lifestyle choices, what we eat, for example, and of course the fact that we do or don't exercise. All those factors that you've all heard before, but they come up so often we really can't ignore them anymore. We've heard them so many times. We're hoping for something new and different, please. But in fact, they are the things that we have to watch for all of us, for all those conditions, for our health in general. So exercising 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week if possible. And when we have to lose weight, that often is a bit of a mountain to climb for some people. And so they get fed up or despondent and just, have tried everything. But in fact, can you see, we don't have to get down to that ideal body weight. So don't make your goal 20 or 30 kilograms in your mind, which may not even be necessary anyway. But losing just 5, perhaps to 7% of where you are now, and then chiseling away at that, if you keep on losing 5% of that amount that you keep losing, you will eventually get to a weight that is sensible for you and good for your body, and the thing that your body can then be more accommodating with. So don't make that goal unrealistic. Start slowly, tick it off, and you will get there if you chisel away. And you don't have to get necessarily to an ideal body weight. Your body will literally start to change as these percentages start to just get chiseled away. And of course, then what we eat obviously matters. And people talk about this balanced diet, and I suppose most of us think we're doing it and hope that we're doing it and try to do it. It isn't always, even if we know what to do, it isn't always easy to do every day of the week, all the time. It's quite difficult to achieve the proper balance that we need. So we have to be, that's why if we do some exercise, we can get away with it. If we keep our weight under control, we do a bit of everything properly, we'll be okay. We can manage this condition. But what we've done at NeoLife, which again, as Drew was making reference to, your body is accommodating. There's an amazing amount of science around. We have a scientific advisory board who are constantly watching trends. This is a particularly important trend, this one of glucose imbalance. And so we brought out quite an amazing product called Botanical Balance. And the botanical actually obviously is the plants. We've just gone to basic foods. You'll see there's cinnamon, turmeric, curcumin. We've put a bit of chromium in there. Not a complicated combination of ingredients, but such a powerful one that it's creating such an amazing influence on the behavior of our body. It's not putting a lid on things, it's actually helping the body to accommodate better, if you like. That's what it's doing. So they're actually helping the body recognize the glucose that you get in, pick it up, get it to the cell, get it out the bloodstream. That's what we want. So it can't cause damage if left to its own devices. It gets into the cell, that's why you have better energy, and it's not stored as fat, so your weight control is better. So actually, when we start to get this glucose balance under control, that's exactly what happens. We regulate our weight. People start to find that they're losing weight because the body's behaving better. Not because this is a magic bullet. This is actually the way the body's working better. It's doing the accommodating properly. Because our sugar levels are not fluctuating, we actually have better memory, better mood, better sleep, better focus. And we've done quite a lot of research on this to show in elderly people, for example, their memory and their ability to recall information is improved. Even in the youth, where I say normally we consider this to be something that happens later in life, but many of them found also that their focus was better, their hunger control was better. It's also interesting because the sugar wasn't shooting up and then it drops down to compensate so that we can get some balance, and that causes you to be hungry again. So then you go and desire some more sugary foods to pick yourself up again, and so you get on this roller coaster. So this product has been better than we even thought it was going to be. And as I say, we do our own research to actually establish the fact that it is absorbed, it is recognized, and in fact, it does benefit us. So we don't have to be a diabetic to take this product. That's the point. Can you see the pre-diabetic thing I was talking about? And literally what we eat influences our blood sugar moment to moment, literally. It's like putting petrol in your car. The dial goes up because you've put it in, and as you use it, the dial goes down, and then you top up again. And that's exactly how the body works. You eat, the sugar levels go up. You utilize the sugar, preferably by doing some exercise and moving around, because that's why you put it in the food in the body. And then it goes down, so you have to top it up again. And so this manages to keep this balance going for us. So that's why balance is a very important word. And so these nutrients, which some of us do have, but perhaps not in the concentrations that we're managing to get them here, is making an influence in this behavior pattern. So we suggest that people take it, before the 2 largest meals of your day, because that's when you're going to put your most petrol in, if you like, and you want to be able to make sure that the body balances properly. So as I say, you don't have to wait for a condition. That's the point here. And that's what NeoLife is trying to educate people about, is eat this healthy diet, yes, but they inevitably, as I say, it's difficult to do, and we get gaps in our diet. And so we're trying to help people fill those gaps before a problem actually occurs. But commonly we only discover things are happening to us, we're not doing it properly when there is a concern. So we can take this if we actually have a condition where our sugar is already up and down, and we can take it along with our medication. We're not suggesting it takes the place of medication, but it can be taken, and it would be a good idea to consult with your medical or health team who are working with you if you in fact do have a condition, or that they've already diagnosed as type 2 diabetes. Then work with them, because you might actually find that when your body's behaving more positively, you might actually need less medication. But that's something you have to work with one with the other. But even if, as I say, you don't have a concern, people have found that they're managing their weight better, that they are focusing better, their memory is good, their mood is better, so all because everything's back in balance. So this is quite an amazing product. So 2 tablets before 2 of the largest meals, and you choose which ones those are in your day. This was just one I just brought it because we're talking about men's health more specifically here. I thought this gentleman has actually been diabetic for many years. In fact, he is on insulin now, but in fact, he's found that he's been able to, because he's sensible about his condition, he was observing how his sugar levels were changing, and that he could regulate his sugar with perhaps a little bit less insulin, but also, can you see that he said his cholesterol and his blood pressure started to be influenced. And this is what's so amazing. Everything is interwoven. One doesn't just have this or just have that. Eventually you'll find that if we don't control or check our conditions like cholesterol or blood pressure, they start to influence other disease patterns in our bodies. And so it's very common to have cholesterol issues or be on medication for cholesterol, blood pressure, and sugar control. It's not unusual. In fact, it's so common that it has a name for those 3 components together. It's called the metabolic syndrome, because people so typically in this Western way of living actually have all 3 conditions together, and they influence one another. And that's exactly where he's at. But because he's managing one component very well, it's starting to influence the others positively, which is extremely exciting. And this is basically just food. Right, so that was what was happening on the 14th, and I said something on the 19th was happening, which was actually Men's International Health Day. And you've probably heard of Movember instead of
Já ouviram falar sobre novembro?
And this is just something that was coined. In fact, it's something around the world that is used.
Em todo mundo.
We have been doing that in South Africa as well.
Mês de consciencialização.
Okay, sadly, what has happened is, in fact, it seems, and they don't even give a reason, that we're actually not supporting this movement, because I think they depend on donations, and perhaps there's a signal in itself that we're not giving enough to movements like this to warrant them actually staying afloat in South Africa. But it is a movement around the world, and what they encourage people to basically do was
a encorajar as pessoas
to actually grow a moustache. So that just like we've had ladies challenges, and with cancer, for example, and we've had those where people shave their heads or they put color on their hair to sort of, in keeping with support for the people who are suffering from, let's say, breast cancer or anything related to the female system. This is, in fact, an outward sign, as it were, to support men. And more specifically, what the focus has been, and it doesn't mean that the movement doesn't exist and that we aren't aware of it in South Africa. We've got various foundations in South Africa who are really driving a lot of this. But I don't know that a lot of men are growing a moustache, and it's a pity. But the drive, nevertheless, is to look at various components of men's health that are very dominant and that are having an influence on negativity in terms of men's well-being. And those are some of the cancers, more specifically prostate cancer and testicular cancer. And then also in mood, in our well-being in terms of our mental health, basically. Something that I think we're not been focusing on a lot, and perhaps men are not particularly good at focusing on that, which is probably one of the concerns, and we'll mention that now. So that's what Movember is, looking at very specific components, 2 different forms of cancer that men have, and then also mental health. So one of the main cancers there, of course, is prostate cancer, and I'm talking about South Africa now. And you'll see there it's the leading cancer affecting men, of course, it doesn't affect women. That's the difference between the two of us. It tends to be in the sort of a slightly older category, sort of, well, when I say that, the over 40s, you're not old, but that's the group. And as we get older, and it seems like it's more prevalent as men age. And of course, being aware, that we're all living longer. That's the interesting thing is that in spite of all these diseases that are actually on the increase, we're living longer. And the reason for that really is that we're being medicated. So which is great. I mean, we kept alive and we go along our path, but in fact, it doesn't always, we have the quantity then, but often the quality isn't as what we would like it to be. And of course, there are many side effects to many of these medications, for which we then take another medication to counter that. So as we get older, even if we've lived a very healthy life, it actually seems unfair almost, but if we're living into our 80s and our 90s, which people are, sometimes these cancers manifest simply because of literally old age. It's going to affect, in terms of the stats in South Africa, 1 in every 23 men, which is a fairly high incidence. And that, on average, 5 of those people would actually die from prostate cancer, and that's every day. It's really on the increase here. When we look at all the stats in the country, and it's important to know African men, for example, and this is around the world, in the Caribbean and America as well, it seems to be a disease that's more prevalent in those communities, and it seems to be quite an aggressive form. So it's good knowing that, because obviously we look at our demographic, and it's also perhaps a bit of education that we certainly need to spread around in South Africa. It affects all communities, some more than others in some cases. So if you look at this is quite interesting, that it's going to surpass all other forms of cancer very, very soon in terms of their statistics. And look at those numbers again, 140% increase in cases. It's not even 10 years, and we're talking those kind of numbers. So we've really got to take note. And I think a lot of us think, well, we don't make ourselves part of those statistics. And unfortunately, all of us in some way are going to have some brush with one of our lifestyle diseases, as we call them. If we're well nourished, our immune systems are strong, our attitudes are good, and our weight is under control, we may be afflicted with something, but we will probably bounce back a whole lot better than if we didn't have a good baseline to start with. I think that's our challenge too. Let's wait for something to go wrong or bluff it will never happen. But let's fight. And I think that was found that, in fact, when they're looking at this in November, now looking at all the sort of incidents of men's health, they're very aware that men in particular, probably more than women, tend to play it down. They don't actually either know also what to look for or what tests to even have. I think as that's what I was saying, if there's quite a distinct slant towards women's health, more so than men's. And I think that's been something that the government have really put in place, because yes, we need to be protected, but there's been a focus more on children and women than there actually have been on men. And I think the numbers are starting to show now. And so they realize that men are actually not educated enough about these conditions to know what to ask, what questions to ask, what to go and find out, what to test or what to check. So this is something that at NeoLife, we like to educate our distributors and educate the public in general, not just talk about products only, but this information needs to get out there. And then we have great tools that would at least assist people to get a better chance at staying healthy. So that's prostate cancer in South Africa, the leading one, compared to, let's say, the testicular cancer, which is also very prevalent. But this is considered more a younger man's cancer. And that's also worrying, that our youth, as it were, almost have to, from 15 years old, it's possible. And so the sort of below 40s, this particular cancer is much more common. And again, men aren't really very much aware of the incidence of this. It's very, very treatable if caught early. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what questions to ask. They're not sure how to prevent. And it has doubled in the last 10 years. So the point here I'm making is that the guys on this call, and I've made this plea before, you've got to speak to the other guys that you're going to meet out there, whether it's at the gym or even if you're going for a walk or you're part of a running group or just at work. You know, we've got to start broaching certain subjects. It's not always easy to do because men don't like to talk about these things. And they've seen, as I say, play it down. That seems to have been the sort of concern. Or they bury their head in the sand and then just, it's never going to happen to me type of thing. So men have got to start talking to men about this. I think it's a lot better than a woman trying to broach a subject you're never going to get, never going to get to what you need to talk about. So let's look at some of the nutrients that are well known and that we could help people to make sure that they have it, certainly, in terms of what does the male physiology need. And zinc is certainly very much a male mineral. I mean, all of us need it. The human body needs it, whether it's in pregnancy, whether it's in children or in adulthood. But it's very much an important nutrient to support health of men of all ages. So let's just talk a little bit about zinc. It's predominantly actually in your sort of animal-based foods or in seafood. So you'll find people who are strict vegetarians need to sort of make sure that they actually eat a combination of different foods. And it definitely affects right through the life cycle. It affects in adolescence, puberty, sexual development or maturation. So it's a very important nutrient in the male physiology and the reproductive system. And so it would be obviously important then, of course, to prevent diseases in those systems. Just in terms of what NeoLife have to offer, we have what we call a chelated zinc, or chelated, as people might say. And it's important for normal testosterone levels, as I say, that's in other words, hormonal development, health of the prostate, in fact, health of the reproductive system in general. And the chelation is added to this product as a technology, so to make sure that it is actually absorbed. So let me just show you what that means. We call it double amino acid chelation. So that sounds like a mouthful, but I'll explain this. Zinc, for example, in this case is the mineral, and minerals in general are quite abundant in the foods that we eat, but not always that well absorbed, interestingly. They can be kind of pulled in different directions in the body and not properly absorbed or readily absorbed. So what we do is we chelate or protect them, we coat them. And when I say we at NeoLife actually pioneered this technology way back in the 1950s, 1960s. And so what was put around a mineral, and we've done this for all the minerals that we have that we use independently, are amino acids, which are proteins, because you and I are predominantly made of protein. So it's not something foreign to the body, but it's almost like blinkers. It coats it, and so now it's not as distractible. It's not as pulled in different directions in the digestive system as it might have been, because it's now protected. And the body readily recognizes amino acids because, as I say, we're predominantly protein. And so it's much more readily absorbed. And this technology was actually, as I say, brought by NeoLife, by Dr. Arthur First, who actually headed up our scientific advisory board, who are the scientists who conceptualize and develop and research these products for us. They basically work for all of us, for the distributors. They're added value to our NeoLife business if you have an independent distributorship. And he was actually doing cancer research, and he wanted to use different minerals. But he realized that if he wanted to make them so focused and effective, he needed to make sure that they could go where he needed them to go or to be absorbed. And so he actually pioneered this technology, which of course has come into the marketplace now. Others are starting to use this technology, but this was something that it's a typical sort of NeoLife concept. We have been pioneers along the way in just about everything that we've done. And we'll mention that as we go along. And you'll hear that as you get to know the NeoLife products, the first of its kind, or the only one in the world. It's quite amazing that, and all this knowledge that people still don't apply some of it. So chelation means that we can make sure that this mineral gets absorbed, very important for men and the health of the reproductive system. And potentially it has a 6 times greater chance of being absorbed if it's chelated. So very, very exciting product to use. And it also, what else it does is that because it's chelated, it's less, if you like, taxing for some people. Some people have a sensitive stomach, so it's not likely to cause any irritation. It's much more easily absorbed, and it does its job. Right, so that was zinc. And then, of course, you know, a nutrition talk wouldn't be a nutrition talk if we weren't talking about fruit and vegetables, which of course everybody knows about and everybody knows they should be eating. But as I say, we think we're doing a good job, but perhaps we're doing it 2-3 times a week. Some people quite openly say, well, I just don't like fruit and vegetables or vegetables, so they don't eat them. And that's a huge gap in our diet, huge, in terms of our health and being able to put ourselves at an advantage in terms of contracting certain diseases or certainly fighting them. So it has to play a part in a healthy diet. But of course, I guess, you know, that might be so, but certainly not every guy is going to go out there and have a broccoli and kale smoothie. You know, that's just not going to be his thing. So we thought, all right, well, we know that those things are good for you, but we'll give you something that's much more palatable and much easier to take, and you'll actually quite enjoy taking it. And that's a product called Cruciferous Plus, because kale and broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower, that sort of family, which isn't often a winner in most families, that is actually the collective term for those fruit or those vegetables actually is called cruciferous. So we have made a whole combo for somebody that's much more palatable than having to slurp it through a straw like that. And so just to give you an idea of what's, we are world leaders in fruit and vegetable extracts, and we're very big on it because we know the importance from a nutritional point of view that this family of different nutrients bring to the body, and learning all the time, of course. Powerful nutrients, as I say, in these cruciferous vegetables that we've got in this particular blend. You can see the different contributors there, many of which never really find their way onto most people's plates. And they're very, very important in stimulating the body to protect itself. Almost a dual function. It's a protector of the cells, because everything is a cell. I mean, cancer starts as a cell that reproduces and dramatically and reproduces irregularly. But our whole body is made of cells. So we have to look after every single cell and make sure that every single cell can, for example, receive that glucose we were talking about. That cell has to be in good condition, and every cell needs glucose. So we worry about the membrane, but we also have to protect that cell from waste products and things that we breathe in or things that we've eaten, or cigarette smoke, for example. We have to protect them from those things as well. So our food helps us to do that. The body has these innate systems, but nutrients from the food help the systems work. I don't think people always realize that. We tend to think of food as smells nice, looks nice, tastes nice, and that's as far as it goes, or else it sits on your hips so you don't like it. But other than that, we don't really think about where it's going. We don't have to think about everything we eat, but it's good to know that, in fact, it goes to every single little cell and makes everything work for us. So these particular nutrients, and I've put there sulforaphane and indole 3-carbonyls, a bit of a mouthful, but those are actually specifically being researched. And you'll find them in a university textbook, for example, that will be telling those students reading about these particular different vegetables with these particular actives. And they actually state it. They say these things will protect you against cancer, because they will help cells protect themselves. And so the cell has its own natural detoxification processes, but these, which means they are neutralize toxins that come their way, change them into something else, help the body to eliminate them. They're the waste substances. They take the good out of some things, but they create waste. They're like little factories. So they might utilize something good, but there'll be a waste, and the body has to manage that too. And so these particular actives in these particular vegetables enhance those cells' systems, help those cells to do that job better. And they tend to gravitate more in hormone-related tissue. So in women and in men, they gravitate to hormone-mediated tissue, which are the systems that we're talking about, the prostate, where these cancers are actually happening. And so they help the body to fight back, to detox, to get rid of things. Not unforeign, it's not an unusual system, it's just enhancing a system that already exists. So if you don't have those things, those systems are compromised. So cruciferous vegetables, very important for the well-being of the male system, and for Movember, as I'm talking, those testicular cancers, the prostate cancers, the areas where our bodies are challenged. We can combat, we can fight back. And so, of course, fruit and vegetables, I want to just make reference to some of the others just so that you're familiar with the words, because flavonoid might not have been a common word. We actually had to pioneer, we didn't invent flavonoids. Flavonoids is a term for the colors in certain fruit and vegetables for the pigments, like the purpley ones and the deep red ones and black ones, like your red grapes, your black grapes. That's why red wine is considered good for you, because it's rich in flavonoids. It's the pigment that's been coming from the grapes. But beetroot, for example, and you'll see there on that list, cranberries and all the different berries, it's slightly bluish and reddish tinges. So all of those are very important to us, and they're water soluble, so they play a part in a different part of the body, all the watery systems of the body. These fruit and vegetables, these extracts will go there. And again, we combine this and helps the body then to help itself to defend and protect the cells that are so important. And that's all over the body. But as I say, there isn't another one on the market that has got a combination like this taken from the actual foods. That's also very important. And we were actually encouraged or allowed to use the American Cancer Institute's protocols when they test products. And we were able to use their protocols. We were allowed to use them. And this was found on breast tissue, for example, and other hormone-related tissue, that it could actually intervene, if you like. It could almost influence those cells to stop reproducing so rapidly. So this is not a medication. This is just showing you that the body can recognize foods, use them, and if they're delivered simply in a different form, like a tablet, they can still do that. And that's exactly what we tested this product for. So we're very proud of the influence that these fruit and vegetable extracts that we've put together have on the human body. We know we're making a difference in some inroads into these lifestyle diseases. So this would be something complementary to the cruciferous products. And of course, just to give you the full picture, these carotenoids, that's another name for pigments, but in different fruit and vegetables, and mostly the red, yellow, and orange ones you can see. And spinach, while it's green, it's chlorophyll that's causing it to be green, but underneath there is very rich, colorful pigments in there as well. And the pigment is what we're interested in, because they actually protect the fruit and vegetable. So when we eat them, they protect us. So these ones are oil soluble, so they work in slightly different places, all the oily areas of the body. The flavonoids are water soluble, so they work in all the watery systems. So can you see what an absolute array of fruit and vegetables we've got in 3 products that make a huge difference to our ability to fight back, for our ability to protect ourselves. In fact, our cells are working for us, and they are actually protecting our body in terms of our health. So yes, there are 3 different ones, but in actual fact, we've made it really simple. And we've got a little product called phytodefense, phyto meaning plant, defense obviously our protection. And basically we put it in a little sachet, a little packet, which you take 1 a day. You're basically getting the proportions of 6 different fruit and vegetables, rich in their different components, on a daily basis. And as I say, you don't have to wait for something to be wrong so that we suddenly scramble around saying, I better up my fruits and vegetable intake. These are preventative agents as well. They help your body to do the very things I was talking about. Give them the nutrients, your cells will do what they can do. You will reach your own individual potential, because we all have it. Can I stand here and say, you'll never get sick? Of course not. Can I say, I won't ever get sick? I can't say that either. For all our knowledge, we still have to wait for our body to do what it's capable of doing, but we will be able to fight back a whole lot better, that I can assure you. So phytodefense, very important. And for the guys, I mean, this is so easy. Put it in your pocket, stick it in your briefcase, put it in your gym bag. You can travel with it. They really, really are convenient, and they do they do all those things I was talking about the individual products, but they're all represented in the right proportions in this particular product. So phytodefense should be on the list. In mental health is another part of the Movember drive, because again, it's something I think in general, and we've certainly come to the fore now with the COVID, lifestyle that we've had and all the challenges that have come along. But in actual fact, we're talking men here, and as I said, men don't often talk about their problems. They tend to, bottle them up. And these numbers are not very nice to share, but in fact, I thought, 4 out of 5 suicides that do happen, because these things do happen, are men. And this is happening in South Africa, these sort of numbers. And of course, around the world, the numbers are staggering. And so it's been, recognized here that, and this is what the South African team are saying, that they need to remove the stigma and the barriers to men seeking help if they, have challenges. We all have challenges, but men are just made differently. They're designed not to talk about it usually. And so, as I say, guys, let's get some sort of activity going. Let's get some talking. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be negative. There's someone just having, I mean, loneliness is also something that makes people depressed and lowers the mood and causes concern. So just having some sort of social networking, and in NeoLife, we couldn't have a better offer, really. We're all working together, sharing information, keeping in touch. It's quite an amazing thing when you actually look at the picture as a whole thing. It's not just nutrients, not just skincare. It's actually a whole, that's why we call it a family, because we network with people, and people have got a way of actually getting educated and also getting some sort of sense of community. So we've got an opportunity, and as I say, the guys in our business can certainly start to scratch the surface a bit in other ways. But if we look at some of the products, I'm just going to reference one or two of them, because there's quite a lot of talk, I suppose you could say, about what they call nutritional psychiatry now, where they're looking at nutrients as well. I mean, obviously, it's a very sophisticated area and a very complex one, and not one that we're suggesting we, could take away a medication and take this. But this nutrients, that's what I'm saying, and I think I've shown you already, give your body the nutrients. It will do what it has to do. Your body knows what to do with it. Just give it to them. And those cells will do it for you. So the omega-3 fatty acids, I think many people have heard about them before, and they have associated it with fish, maybe fish that swim in cold waters. And so it ticks a few boxes when people actually see a product, for example, on the shelf, and let's face it, there are hundreds of them. And we all know, even if we don't know much about them, we know they're good for us. But in actual fact, the reason why they're good for us is because, yes, our bodies need them, our cells desperately want them, and we cannot manufacture them or synthesize them. So we have to get them from our food. So if we don't make the food choices that give us these omega-3 oils, then we really have a gap, and our cells simply can't work optimally. So we're going to get them predominantly, well, in an easy to use form from fish. Mostly, as I say, and these fish have got a natural oil in their flesh. So it's not the liver of the fish, for example, it's actually in the flesh of the fish. And so what we've done is gone to, in this particular product, we've called it salmon oil plus. So salmon is one of our main fish, but we've also added tuna and sardines and anchovies. So we have 4 different fish in this product, so that we can give you all those 8 that's standing there staring at you, because we're very emphatic about this, and also very proud of it. Our natural biochemistry in those cells of ours recognize 8 different members of the omega-3 family. And yet actually, when you look on the shelves, there's usually commonly only 2 ingredients or 2 of this family represented. Yes, because they are very important ones and they are very well researched, but they don't work independently, and nothing in nature works independently. Families work together and they influence one another. Some may be more influential than others, but without the one, the other one won't have its influence. And so having all 8 represented in your diet is extremely important for your cells. So again, if we're going to supplement the diet, which is what we're doing here, to fill a gap, all these things I've been talking about are not taking the place of your food. We're saying, eat those foods, please, but you possibly can't do them on a regular basis or 7 days a week. Gaps creep in, create an opportunity for things to go wrong. So we are there at NeoLife to fill those gaps, but we do it with the foods and from the foods. Otherwise, what's the point? And so if your body wants 8, we give you 8. And as I say, so be careful what it is that you're picking up. It's important to know what you're looking at in a label, or even in your food choices for that matter. But certainly if you're going to take a supplement, it's worth knowing what you're swallowing. And I find, I've looked at some of them, and I've actually been horrified to see that some of the products that you purchase don't even tell you which fish. They say omega-3, so that ticks a box for you. Maybe they say cold water fish, it comes from the North Sea, and so you think, okay, that sounds right. And so you purchase it based perhaps on the price or the size of the capsule. Doesn't even tell you which fish it is. That's pretty scary. And then on top of it, probably only has 2 or 3. I think the best I've seen on the market is 4 different representatives of the omega-3 family. And in fact, to be honest, around the world, there is not another product that has all 8, and our scientists will even tell you that. Now, just so that you're aware, I made mention of us researching the other products. These products have been researched, and the fruit and vegetable ones, we can actually quantify enhancement in the immune system, or how much it protected us, and in a time period too. So this one, for example, this has been researched independently to see, well, does it actually work? Does it do what omega-3 fats from the actual fish would do? And the well-known things that we read, which you'll find on all labels, will be things like inflammation or heart disease or eyes or brain or whatever. And you say, okay, that sounds right. But does that product actually do what general knowledge is telling you omega-3s do? So that's also a concern. Am I swallowing something that actually works? So what we do is we on top of all the research and all the extras that we put in there, we actually research the product as well. So this particular product has been researched, and in just 8 weeks, it was found that it would enhance reduce actually the inflammatory response. So it would actually enhance our ability to reduce inflammation by 68% in just 8 weeks, which is dramatic. Inflammation is also one of those common denominators that run through most of these conditions. When our body's out of balance, then there's an inflammatory response. And some cancers, for example, are actually inflammatory, or many of them are. Heart disease is inflammatory. Diabetes will cause inflammation. Most of these diseases, that another common denominator is inflammation. And I talked about weight being a common denominator. Fat cells give off inflammation markers. They actually express inflammation in the body. So that's why we have to try and keep things in balance. So that might sound a bit complicated, but we talked inflammation. Just know that this particular product reduces inflammation by 68% in just 8 weeks, which is quite amazing as a performance target, but also the fact that we know this product does it. So when you swallow it, you can know that it's going to work in your favor. So that's the sort of, those are all the NeoLife things that excite me about. We don't just put a product out there, we put the best we can, we put our best foot forward. And as I say, very often it's the only one on the market, not just in South Africa, around the world. So look for 8. This guy did, and he knows we've taught him well, and he's looking for 8 in every bottle that he's going to eat. And then just the other one that I want to make reference to is magnesium, because we've recently talked a lot about magnesium, and I mean, it's not a new thing, but in fact, as a nutrient, but we've discovered, certainly in South Africa, in fact, there's research being done that with about 50% of the population actually don't have adequate amounts of magnesium. And that's because, and this is happening around the world, that's because our soil is depleted, certain medications that we're taking, that we take quite frequently. That's what I said, remember, we're being medicated for most things. So for reflux, a lot of people have a lot of digestive discomfort, so people take antacids daily, and that actually inhibits the absorption of magnesium. Diuretics, a lot of people take that for blood pressure. Blood pressure is one of our lifestyle diseases. That inhibits the absorption of calcium, of magnesium. Some of the foods that we typically take, salt, for example, also gets in the way of magnesium absorption. Alcohol tends to do that too. So some of the things we're doing on an almost daily basis are actually inhibiting the absorption of something that was quite a well-known nutrient. And so everyone thinks we're doing fine. But in fact, we've discovered around the world, and certainly in South Africa as well, that people are not as replete as they thought they were, and that our foods are simply as well being processed, and some of the nutrients, right, as magnesium has been processed right out of them. And even our fruit and vegetables, which are coming from the land and from the soil, have not got the quantity of magnesium that they typically were expected to have, and over the years have had. So again, what we've done here, and it's quite exciting, all the new things that are in this product, but pretty much this is also important in terms of our mental health, because it works on the nervous system. So it's a very important play in the central nervous system, which influences, of course, our mood, our sleep, our brain function, and these are all part of our general well-being in terms of our mental health. So we haven't just gone to one form of magnesium, we've put 3 different forms of magnesium in the product, and you'll see there, one of them is again chelated, which means that it's making sure that it gets absorbed. The other is a water-soluble one, the ones from citrus fruits. So it helps the whole product be much more readily digested and available. And then we've gone to the actual earth and taken some of the magnesium out of the soil, because that's how the plant gets it. The soil gets it from the rocks and the water and gets into the soil. That soil then gets into the nutrient system of the plant. And then when you and I eat it. But if the soil is depleted, we're not going to get it. So we've gone back to the roots, if you like, to make sure that we get it. So there were 3 different forms of magnesium. What's even more exciting is that we didn't just stop there. We said, okay, well, let's go to some foods, actual foods that are rich in magnesium. And then you'll find your beetroot, your kale, broccoli and radish, again, not very popular things that are on the plate of food that your kids want to eat, or perhaps even men in particular are probably not going to choose. They've probably never even heard of kale. That's that kind of curly cabbage little one that you can see there. So what we're doing is saying, okay, if you're not familiar with these foods, you don't like them, you are creating gaps in your diet, but we're going to put it back for you. So not only have we put actual quantified amounts of magnesium in 3 different forms in this product, we've actually brought in foods, a blend of foods, and said, okay, this is what nature does. This is what families do. There's a synergy. They'll all work together, help one another, and let the body do what it can with it. So this is quite a unique product, actually. So as I say, magnesium is not necessarily a new word, but it's a new need. And we've really, really filled that need and filled that gap with all sorts of combinations of magnesium that the body hasn't got a chance but to use. And you will certainly benefit from it. And for the guys who, in terms of our mental health in November in this theme, this is very important. It has many other benefits too. I mean, in terms of exercise, energy production, muscle control, but the central nervous system, which is going to influence our mood and our, the chemicals in our brain, levels of well-being and vitality. This is definitely going to play a part. So a very exciting product that we've recently added to our bow, but in fact, very, very important. Yeah, so I think probably, without pointing fingers, but I think a way of looking at eating well is that it's a form of self-respect. I think when we start to realize that it's how important it is, we are showing our bodies respect by actually selecting or adding a little bit more variety to our plate, a little bit more color to our plate, a little bit of freshness to our plate, because that in fact is definitely going to assist the body. And even if you don't fully understand how it all works, doesn't really matter. Just know that your body loves it and it knows what to do with it if you give it the things that it's made and designed to use. But as I say, we're not perfect, any one of us, we're busy. The food industry, I have to say, is not really on our side in many cases. A lot of the foods are devoid of things like, let's say, magnesium, for example, simply because they're processed so that they can have a shelf life, so that I can go pick them up and eat them straight away, or keep them in the fridge, or keep them in the cupboard. It's convenient, we all know that, but it loses some of its freshness almost inevitably. And so that's where NeoLife comes and says, we'll go back and get the freshness, we'll deliver it in a different form and help you to fill that gap that possibly you aren't able to achieve on your own. And so we need to show our bodies that respect, I believe, and in turn, your body will show you some respect, and it will fight with you and for you. But we're all in this together. NeoLife, we're a family, and it doesn't mean that it's as I say, it's not a finger-pointing exercise. It's to educate, it's to excite, and it's to nourish and to fill a gap so that we can all lead a much healthier and happier life, as Drew said. That's our mission. So let's get out there, guys. Put your rucksack on, and let's make the world a healthier and a happier place for yourselves, your families, and for everybody. That's me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Liz. That was amazing. That really was incredible. Thank you so much. You can stop your screen share for me. That'd be great. That was so much information, so valuable. And I just got to tell you, Liz, thank you for just putting that so simply, so the average person like me can understand that and implement it. But I was listening to you and I was just thinking, my family, we have been using NeoLife products for 48 years. My 3 children are 3rd generation on these products. And NeoLife has given us so much as a family, but probably one of the greatest things is it's given us generations of magnificent health. And so I just want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who's been on the call tonight. But I want to say to you, who do you know that needs this information that Liz has just shared with you? I'm going to make this replay available on our YouTube channel. Please share it with people. Reach out to people. Maybe you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and reach out to people and say, hey, listen, I've got some information which I truly believe is going to make a positive difference. They don't have to listen to the whole replay. They can just listen to the part on botanical balance or magnesium or whatever part that you think they need to listen to. And then I just want to finish off by thanking our guests for being with us tonight, for committing the time. I truly hope that health is your greatest wealth. Getting out in front and being proactive about your health is one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself and for your family. So start eating as well as you can. Make sure you're getting the right amount of exercise, but start plugging your nutrition gaps with good, healthy nutrition. And that is where NeoLife can partner with you. And so, protect yourself, protect your family, achieve great health. And then I just want to actually invite you to take it a step further. Not only empower yourselves to great health, but I want to invite you to join this NeoLife family and community and get out there and help us achieve, help other families to achieve better health and partner with us in our mission to make this world a healthier and a happier place. And so get in touch with the person that got you onto this call. We would love to have you as part of this family. So good night, everybody. God bless you all. Have a fantastic week.